What is a dream that you do not give yourself enough credit for? So the reason why I asked you this question, why I wanted to ask, is because one, I kind of faced this question myself over the past year, in the sense that I actually finally achieved something that I really, really wanted, which was like traveling. And like really like going about traveling. And it got me thinking about how afraid I was and how my thought process before I had actually started doing it regularly and how it's changed now.
Mm-hmm.
Because beforehand, before I had gone and like lived abroad and everything, I thought it was like, it was impossible. It was the Instagram reality kind of thing. It was like, only if you make, 6 figures and all this stuff, and only if you have sponsorships, only if only if all these things can I actually achieve, this kind of goal, this reality, this dream. And when I finally achieved it, I realized just how easy it was.
Yeah.
And like I was kind of blown back. I was like, hold up, you're telling me all I had to do was just kind of like throw myself in there? Like I didn't, all this overthinking, all of this like, oh, it'll never happen, or oh, it'll only happen when I'm like, 25 and I have a job or something like this. I was like, man, I completely overthought this. I overthought how easy this was, how like attainable this was. And I kind of realized, I feel like everybody has something like that for themselves, where they really are like, it's actually attainable. It's like quite literally like right in front of them. But we have our own personal fears that get in the way of allowing for that to happen. And we don't give, and again, we don't give ourselves enough credit. Cause like for me, it was like, the huge thing was like financially, like I was like, like I don't have the money to do this. And then I like realized it. I was like, I literally had the money like all along. Like I could have done this ages ago, but I just didn't. Because I didn't think that it was like, I didn't think that I had the money for it. I'll never have the money for it at my age, or at this young, or all this stuff. And here I am now. It's like going to be my third excursion kind of thing. And that kind of like blows my mind at the fact that I'm like, oh, I've quite literally traveled almost every single season.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, blown away. And at the same time, I was like, man, I didn't give myself enough credit for this for it. And I kind of, and in that way, I kind of like bit my lip a little bit and was a little upset, kicked the dirt. And I was like, man, it was staring me right in the face.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was just kind of jump and take that leap. But, something was in the way.
Yeah. It's like you were like the person holding yourself back from the life you want to live type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume everybody has that. Like, it took me so long. I like completely overthought before I even like joined like pre-med, because I was like, oh well, I'll just stay in health sciences, because I already had my whole big plan of like I was going to finish college in 3 years. I was going to go get my graduate and whatever in like a year and a half. I was going to be a registered dietitian. I was just going to cruise, and like I wasn't even thinking in school by this point. Like I was just going through it 4.0 without even like trying. So what I did in high school, it was like I wasn't even trying, and I was like the top 10 of my class, and I was just like going to keep going through all of these things because it was the easy, like not like an easy path obviously, but it was like the easiest path that I was fine to live with, even if it's like not the path I would have picked if I could have picked anything. But it was like, this is a reality I'm okay with living with, instead of like having that dream and being like, I want to go through the hardship and the heartache and the whatever, or like even just making like the jump of like, why can't I do it? Like, why can't I go travel?
Yeah.
Let me just try. Like, it was like so scary for me to just even be like, well, maybe I can be a physician one day. Like, there was literally nothing holding me back from doing that, from joining pre-med, other than me thinking like, well, what if I'm not smart enough? Like, what if I don't have the time to do this? What if I'm not somebody that should be? So like, and then I did it. Now I'm like, why didn't I do this before?
Yeah. Like, why did I waste all this
Like,
time?
yeah, not even
like building up to it and not, just
Yeah.
why didn't I jump further on?
That's yeah.
I definitely understand that. I think it's not necessarily like not necessarily the easiest path, but it's like the one that's just most attainable.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one that you had to do the least amount of work.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just sounds like you were like coasting through and you're like, I can continue coasting. And in that regard, I won't be I won't be impassioned, but I won't be upset either, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Where it's just like, now it's like, I like shadowed like physicians and like working in the ER and stuff, and it's like now I'm at the point where like if I'm not a physician, like there would be like part of my life missing.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know, like maybe that's how you feel about like traveling. Like if you
Yeah.
like I would not be the same person.
No, you wouldn't.
And I would be a lesser version for sure.
Yeah, and I think generally that's kind of what those dreams signify to most people.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something where you're like, I'm part of the reason why I'm afraid to go higher, or I'm afraid to try, or I'm afraid to make that jump is because if I don't land correctly,
yeah,
I'm gonna break something.
Yeah,
I'm gonna break a part of myself, and I'm not sure if I'm willing to
exactly
give that up.
Yeah, I don't know that like maybe like I would be like an amazing surgeon or something like in the future. Maybe I have like this really cool intricate specialty that's like super, like only in major cities in big hospitals, like everybody's on a waiting list 10 years to see me kind of thing. But it's like
the head of the field.
Yeah, like on the top of whatever.
Yeah.
But if I make that, like if I decide that now at like 21, oh sorry,
you're fine.
If I decide that at like now at like 21 or something, like I feel like I've given myself so many years and chances for something to go wrong, even though like I would have felt this way like freshman year of high school. Like you would have never been in the top 10 of your like high school class, but then I was without even like excessive hardship. So I feel like I just won't make a flighty dream like and be like, this is my dream, this is my goal, just for fear of falling, just for fear of the jump, of the landing.
Yeah. I think that, I do think it's reasonable though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what it really comes down to is that you leave yourself vulnerable, and I think inherently we're all scared of vulnerability. I think it's also just because we're in a society where vulnerability and privacy are such like a God, I want to say like a treasured item or something like that. So it's like you're like, oh, if I make myself vulnerable, then I'm like, it's kind of like I'm leaving the door open to like this treasure chest, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to get robbed.
That's a really good way of putting it, actually.
You just don't want to get robbed.
No.
You're like, I know the stakes, and like this is like this is the cream of the crop. These are the jewels and everything, and I do not want to get robbed, like by no means. And so, but I do think in that regard, it makes it harder to put more treasure in the treasure chest because you're not opening it up, and you gotta open it up, or else you're just not. You're leaving all the other kind of riches and everything just out there.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Because if you don't make that big dream, like you're not gonna make those efforts and those strides, like to achieve it. Like for traveling, like you have that dream, but like the longer that you were like, I can't do this, like you're not even looking at how much flights are sometimes. You're not even looking at like different hotel options in that area you want to be in. It's like same thing. You don't make the dream, like you're never even gonna like try to research the nitty gritty of like what do you need for it, because like if you open the chest, you're scared.
Yeah, exactly. And like the other thing that I kind of wanted to learn from was, you can always refill up the chest. As much as you don't think that you can. It's like of course, like people always talk about like, oh, you know, like failure is a lesson and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't feel like I need to dive deep into that. But truthfully, like if you leave yourself vulnerable just for a little bit, and you do wind up getting hurt, you can fix it. And but the more important factor of this is we're young and we have the time to fix it. It's like what happens now at 21 isn't going to have any effect. Like it's not going to like you're not going to lose anything here at this age that you can't make back at 30.
Yeah.
Or can't even like go further from than 30. I mean, if you really think about it, the absolute amount of possibilities and outcomes that you have within a 9-year time span is insane. I mean, you could possibly win the lottery. You could go to the best school in the world. You could win a scholarship that, you know, 1 in 4 people win or something like that. And you don't know.